Thank you.
You can have mine. I will.
But I don't think there's not a whole lot on here that needs to.
There's nothing that needs to. Okay. I just.
All right, smart.
Yep.
Oh, the presentations.
Yeah.
Look at my.
I was just gonna say.
For my birthday.
I like that.
It's the new,
cool.
you know, it's the new cool gift. Is
Yeah.
a mask.
Well, I called over to the memorial,
Yeah.
and the lady that I talked to said she didn't think they had any in the gift shop, so she didn't know if there's anyone. But she's like, let me have the assistant director. I'm going to transfer you to her. So
Okay.
she did, and she called me back, and she's like, well, no, we're not selling those, but give me your address. And she's like, you said you're in Commissioner Williams' office, and I was like, yeah. And she's like, okay, give me your address, and I'll send you.
Good.
So
Good. I'm glad
we'll
you
see.
called.
Yeah.
Good morning. No. Where's your Good morning. I'm good. How was your I heard you graduated magna cum laude.
What I did was I finished all my lessons.
Right. Right.
And I'm the first Oakland County person that's done that. And I passed all the, they did make you take these tests.
Right.
And so, let's talk about it more.
Okay. You can memorize it.
Real quick.
Right.
So, yes, I 4 points. So, I was very proud of it. I'm one of these people
Yes. I am too. Yeah.
Sometimes it's the first.
So, no, Cody and I are going to start taking LTAP classes this summer. I think we are scheduled for a class in July.
This is the resolution MIS resolution.
That's next week. And then I think we have a class in August. So.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
He was at the last budget board last night.
Oh, no, I don't plan to.
Don't do service.
Can I drive the bus?
Okay.
Just make sure you put service.
Okay.
That's okay with me.
It's okay if, may I?
Are we waiting for one more commissioner?
Brian just pulled in. He pulled in right after me.
Okay.
Give him a minute.
Wait.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Early voting starts today.
Since we're
Just
not in a
FYI.
meeting, we can sing happy birthday to Carrie Bloomer.
Oh,
No,
you don't have
it
to.
was
We missed it
yesterday.
yesterday.
It was
It was
yesterday.
We missed it
yesterday.
yesterday, but
It
we
was
could do it
yesterday.
today.
Well, we can sing happy anniversary to PD because it's
PD
his
too.
43rd anniversary.
That's right. Congratulations. Thank you for your service.
43 years.
Law enforcement.
Oh, my gosh.
43 years being married.
Being married,
Oh.
yeah.
Well, same thing, law enforcement.
For her. Follows it up.
All right, let's sing happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Let's sing, everybody.
Everybody.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Carrie. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We
There
have
was-
a professional here. He says we
The one of those verses is supposed to be, the DA doesn't like this, but happy birthday to you.
Our poor
Oh, Larry.
presenters who don't know me had to sing. Okay, Brian. Yeah, I say we start with him.
Shall we? May I
Counselors,
call the meeting to order?
is it all right if Larry chairs? Okay.
Call the meeting to order. Notice was posted Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020, and we have everyone here, a representative, except for Brian Mon's office, and he should be arriving any time. Pledge of Allegiance, would you join me in the pledge, please?
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have departmental items. The first item is number 2, discussion possible action resolution 2020-2558 for $103,875.48 from salary and benefits to operation capital and from capital to operation. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Item 3, discussion possible action to approve reimbursement expenses for special projects in the amount of $21,395.82. Motion? Second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, have a vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that was CARES Fund, correct? Okay.
Number 4, discussion possible action resolution 2020-2837, transfer of $4,600 from operation to capital. Have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Mr. Barnes, can you, I assume this is,
Any discussion?
you said this is for radio upgrades? Is this for all of our radios?
No, ma'am, this is for 5 handheld radios.
Thank you. Otherwise, people online can't hear.
You said 5 handheld radios?
Yeah, I believe this is for 5 handheld radios.
Okay.
This is getting us in compliance with Project 25, Phase 2 wireless with
Okay.
the Oklahoma City system on some radios that we share with them.
Perfect. Okay.
Any other questions, discussion? Seeing none, vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Next item, discussion, possible action transfer of funds, $33,000 for Statistical Product Social Solutions, SPSS, for the Assessor's Office.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those will there be discussion?
Say what it is one more time.
It's called Statistical Product Social Solutions. It's an important, these are licenses for us to be able to use our software. No further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Number 6, I'd like to have the permission of the board to pass over item 6 and go directly to citizens' participation in the rest of the agenda, so we can continue the meeting, and whenever the quorum fails to appear, we can adjourn, if that'd be approved. If that'd be all right. Okay. Citizens' participation. Any citizens wishing to address the board? Seeing none. Board comments, general remarks. Happy anniversary, PD. Congratulations.
Thank you much. No other comments.
Yes, sir. Mr. Hooton?
Again, I'd like to thank Erin Etherington. Without Larry making any comment, she really does a wonderful job and has helped us through
We know.
getting all of our IT stuff and WebEx meetings were going, and so we really do appreciate it.
She's terrific. Rick?
No comment.
Ms. Bloomer, happy birthday.
Thank you. I said this in BOCC yesterday, but please don't forget to vote next Tuesday, or you can early vote, I believe, starting today. Today, tomorrow, and Saturday, and then at your regular polling place on Tuesday. So do not forget.
Mr. Davidson? Nothing? Wonderful. We go to new business before the board. Seeing none. We'll go back to item 6. This is a presentation by Nearmap, and if there is a loss of a quorum, then we will adjourn the meeting before we lose the quorum, but if you would be kind enough to come up and explain this system and how it can be helpful to all the different departments that use imaging and mapping, please. Brett, Clark?
Yes, sir.
If you'd identify yourselves, please, and tell us why you're here.
Sure, absolutely. So my name is Brett Clark. This is my colleague, Tyler.
Yep, Tyler Bailey.
Yep. So we're from Nearmap. We currently work with the assessor's office. We collect aerial imagery throughout the entirety of the county. Right now, it's just the assessor's office that's been using it. But as we work with other entities like Cleveland County, for example, there's a lot of value in spreading that out throughout every department that can find value in using the imagery. So what we were brought here to do today is to show you the full capability, why that's useful across departments, and really dive a little deeper into that. Excuse me. Less of a presentation, more of open discussion. So if there are questions, if that's permissible within the format here in the meeting, we're happy to address those as we go.
The The images that you're providing are very precise. Can you tell us why that would be beneficial to other people besides the assessor's office for measuring roads, bridges, rooftops, other things?
Certainly, absolutely. So from an infrastructure perspective, we measure off of our imagery, the accuracy is within just a few inches, usually about 3 or 4. So especially these COVID times, it's very useful from a remote inspection standpoint. So Tyler can kind of drive around and show some of those measurement capabilities while I discuss that. But essentially, what it allows folks to do is pre-work. So before any construction is even put into place, they can design that, they can look at the logistical plan, and they can do that all remotely from a desktop or a mobile device. So the measurements that show up, again, the accuracy is within just a few inches. So they can do design, scheduling, et cetera, with that.
So commissioners that were looking at a road project would be able to measure the volume of perhaps asphalt they'd need to be able to complete the road, or on a major bridge project, being able to measure within inches of a total cost to repair or replace a major thoroughfare bridge.
Correct, yeah. It can also help keep bids honest, to know we can kind of speculate and look at, okay, we can take accurate measurements when we're getting bids from contractors. This one seems way off because we've been able to remotely measure that. We fly twice per year over the entire county. Traditionally, I believe, the cycle is, where Mike went, how often were you flying before?
We were flying once, possibly a year, sometimes it was once every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
At a different quality level as well. This is a much more precise quality than we
Right. Yeah, I believe it's twice the resolution that you were getting before. And you can see the historical collection, the archive there, so we do fly twice per year. And we update the data and upload that to systems that are already being bought, paid for, and used heavily throughout the county departments within a matter of days after collection. Whereas before, I believe delivery took several months for processing.
All of the rectifying,
Almost
yes.
a year.
What we'd get previously would be not as precise images, and we would have to go through our computer system to ensure that those
Yeah.
would be translated into our system without any errors, so it would be a
Right.
rather cumbersome process to be able to get that done. These images go directly into our system without any having to adjustments or worries.
Yep, it slides right in. It's updated frequently. It gets into your hands faster, so within about a week and a half, it's available for the assessment department currently to use. We've seen a lot of applications through our different public customers within public safety, for example. So the city of Chicago fields between 13 and 15,000 911 calls every day. And every one of those calls is routed using our data because they can look at an accurate, up-to-date view of what's actually out there, and then say, look, I'm bleeding out, I need help, something like that, I'm at this corner. And on older imagery, that could show maybe an old gas station, but it's actually been replaced by a 3-story condo or something like that. So having an accurate, up-to-date view of reality really helps from a public safety standpoint. So this is the data that's currently available in a watered-down format to the other departments right now. It's just a top-down, or what we call vertical view. What we're able to do with our system is also generate what we call panorama data. This is taken at an angle. This is a pretty low-lying building, so if we pull out and we look more at the downtown perhaps, Tyler, it allows us to see from the different 4 cardinal directions. So from an assessment perspective, we can look under the eaves, we can see the facade of a building, etc. For a construction perspective, you can look at heights, you can look at how it interacts with the built environment. If we come in like on that interstate or something like that, that's perfect. So it gives us a clearer view. If we need to send out and serve a warrant in a pretty sensitive or high-risk area, it allows us to get a perfect perspective of what the actual site looks like and the condition with a relatively up-to-date shot of that.
And the reason that's important for our office is there may be an addition of property or livable space in a structure that we otherwise would just see from the rooftop.
Yep.
If we get a report or we're doing our visual inspection, we can see, if we take the lateral look at that property, we can see if there's been an addition made, so we can accurately assess the value of that property without having to send a person out there to check it out when there may or may not be any evidence there.
Yeah.
Another way this helps is for law enforcement to plan for evacuations.
Exactly.
They can determine where the exits and entrances are on major areas that could be the subject of an event, or they could be training on that. Fire departments as well, being able to see the entrances and exits they'd have to be worrying about, along with the radial surveys that we can do, so you can see the number of homes and who would be contacted in case of an evacuation of a major area because of a disaster.
Yeah.
So that's, while these are wonderful images and it's great information, it's very, very useful for our office for determining value and looking at things, but the law enforcement applications and emergency services applications are extremely beneficial as well.
Yeah, no, all true points, right on the money. Kind of dovetailing off of that as well, there's a lot of use cases within land use cover. So looking at, our crops here, has this been replaced by a structure? This was an empty parcel before, something's been built there. We can look at tree canopy assessments. We know in our research and doing work with other municipalities and other counties that every tree has a dollar value associated to it. And so we need to know if there's a clogged drain that's raising the water level and it's killing trees. That does have environmental and an impact on the economy as well. So it's important to be able to see that type of information. We know that this area can be prone to tornadoes, flooding, and so being able to have up-to-date data where you can also look at from a 3D perspective and understand the floodplain and look at that analysis and project, okay, what can be the expected damage. You're able to do that more at not only a macro scale, but a micro level scale with that. So that's just in those different product types. Can you switch to 3D really quick so we can show that? One of the interesting use cases we found most, this is more of a public safety aspect, is in the unfortunate incident of potential active shooter. Yeah, you might need to zoom out. Yeah, we're super zoomed in. There we go. When we go out and collect those panorama or those angled shots, we're able to create an accurate and measurable 3D model of the entire county every time we fly with that system. What we can do then is within tools that the county already uses and pays for, you can bring our data in and you can run what's called a view shed analysis. So if we have an active shooter on this particular part of the building, it can paint out what that person can see. That allows us to deal or plan for things like potential school shootings and looking at paths of evacuation. There's a lot of public safety aspects that come into this. And again, this is collected at scale throughout the county.
Oh.
And can you zoom out a little bit just so we see just the scale at which we're collecting that? Great. So this is updated, this particular data set's updated every year and can be turned on like that. It can be accessible from any device that connects to the internet. We found this with great success being used with another customer, for example, in Boston, where they're planning for the marathon, for different parades, events. So not only can it be used in response, but also for planning in that aspect. So there's a lot of different applications even outside of public safety. So the real vision that we want to portray is that right now, the assessor's office is the only one using some of the data. We provide a lot more, but all of the departments throughout the county could benefit if they all had access to it. And so that's really what we want to come and show. The last thing that we'll pull up, a lot of the work, can I just have the keyboard? This is kind of, thank you. This is more coming out of beta phase, but it could be useful. A lot of times your GIS department, so the Geographic Information Services, are doing a lot of manual work. Same with the assessment department. They go in, there's an addition on the back of the home, they're manually tracing over an image, and that takes a lot of time. So what we've been working on is taking the inherent value in an image and extracting that for you. So within the system, I actually don't know why I moved the keyboard, I didn't need that. So what we're able to do, and what we've started to do, is we've begun extracting data for you. And that's through artificial intelligence. So we train a machine to essentially look at the images and say, show us all the buildings. And then we can compare those layers and say, show us where there's been change, whether that's an addition or a subtraction. And we have a couple different features that we've brought out, but I'll turn on the building layer just for clarity. Let's zoom out here to give you perspective, and then I'll turn off the road overlay. But everything you see in that orange color has automatically not only detected where the structures are, but it's measured them for you. And so that takes out a lot of the manual labor that can come with just simply going in and manually clicking over parcel, over parcel, over parcel. And so I can, from this system, I can come in and say, I want to extract this amount of information. It calculates there's 328 parcels. It pulls that out, not only in a visual layer that you can see, but also in an actual data table that measures everything for you. And again, going back to that tree example, if we go down, these are all the different things that we can detect. So if there's any kind of stormwater management, which is typically, they look at the amount of concrete or structure on a parcel, they measure that, and they bill that person based on that amount of area. This layer helps understand just how much surface within a parcel can soak in rainwater versus goes into the stormwater system, which can have a big impact on flooding. And so you can see that we've been able to detect all of the lawn grass, for example. We can detect all of the trees, and I'll put those in red. So it's automatically finding all that information. And this is just what we've been able to do without any human hands touching up the data. It's just purely telling the computer, find it, and it goes out and finds that. This is intended to save a lot of staff time, and it prevents people from going out in the field more and more, which not every parcel is the same. You can't see everything from the street, and oftentimes I'm sure there's citizens that don't want you on their parcel. And so this allows you to understand without having to go on site and inspect that. So this is really where we see the future, is understanding what is of use to the county, what different things do you want to see. And the general rule of thumb for us is if Tyler and I can agree that this is something from an image, we can teach the computer to find that for you. So that's really the end goal and the vision of where we're trying to go with this, is to continue to add more and more features here that would be of use to the county. And these come out in a format that right now, with the assessment department, for example, would go straight into your CAMA system. So automatically would roll up to parcels, and that affects taxes and other things. And I know we ran through that very quickly, but I wanted to open up if there's any questions or...
Yeah. When you measured that road, it showed that it was 5,900 square feet. That's not the square footage of the road, is that the square footage of how much asphalt is there, or, because it was compared to the building next to it, which the building was much bigger and the building was only 2,900 square feet.
Let's go in and take a look.
I was just curious, on the road, what were you measuring?
Sure. So really, I'm just selecting a point, and it was a random polygon that we were drawing. So that's measuring just that surface that I've identified. So that's going back to a lot of the manual labor that staff are doing right now. Not just an assessment. You have your public works folks do this when you're looking at potholes. Matter of fact, this is a good random example. We can actually see that we had put in it's called a truncated dome. It's that little, usually textured brick patch right there. And we've actually seen that they've done some replacement work right here, just by the difference in the concrete. So we're measuring that type of information. That's all done manually. You can do that right now on the system, which is what we just showed, or eventually we want to be able to measure it for you, which is what I was showing with all those color data layers. So it really depends on what you're highlighting and looking at. So you can measure in areas, you can do lines, you can even drop a radius tool if that would be of use. One interesting use case we heard about was in the city of Cleveland. They got a 911 call because someone found some old sticks of dynamite in a garage because their grandfather had worked for some mining company. And they said, we need a half-mile radius. Well, they didn't have accurate information, so someone kind of guesstimated off of Google. Luckily, nothing happened, but they were about 6 blocks off on their measurement. So it seems silly to draw a circle on a map, but it does have implications and uses there. But it is measuring off the imagery of whatever asset you want to see. Great question. Any other questions or comments?
People who have roofs that need to be replaced on big commercial buildings can use this very precisely to determine a good estimate.
You could use it on the streets, on the county streets. If you're doing 2 miles of asphalt, it would tell you exactly how many tin horns, how many driveways you're going to have to replace, and give you the exact footage and cost, so that when your contractor gives you the price, you don't have to send somebody out, you've already got it.
All of these features, that we use are a small part of it, but the application being able to be used countywide in the various departments that would have a use for it That's what we're really trying to expose here. It's the things that we don't know how to use it yet. If you have a question or an idea, there's probably a way that the data can be extracted, but all we have to do is ask. And it's been a phenomenal asset for our office for measuring parcel data, measuring area, finding properties as the required job of what the assessor's office does. And the accuracy and the preciseness of these aerial images is available here, and I don't know if there's another county in the state that has this kind of imaging that's available for everybody to look at. And it's all available for us to use.
Thank you for that. If you need a job, near Mount Desire, so thank you for that. No, but exactly what you were saying, it was brought to our attention that the last 2 months during COVID, this has been used quite heavily for that exact reason, to reduce the amount of times that you have to go on site. You brought up the instance to measure asphalt. We have a lot of companies that will measure sidewalks, but before using your map, they would get in their car and drive miles and miles and miles hand measuring the sidewalks. Whereas now they can do that exact thing from their desktop using our measurement tool. So, yeah, I mean, we can't. The county is a small portion of what these people use. I know that every time I go and visit with a group, the insurance companies and insurance agents love our site. Yep.
Because they can measure how far it is from the property they're planning to insure to a fire hydrant, and that, or to a fire station, which impacts the rates for that insurance policy. So there's so many things that we may not even be thinking about that can be used. I know the commissioners have their bridges, and I think this is going to be providing a much better way of being able to rate your bridges and be able to catalog them and provide oblique references that are very precise and so much better than almost any other image you're going to get online.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If there's one thing I could impress upon the group is that this type of data is being used by almost every department already. They're just using a lesser version, I guess you could say. It impacts the daily life of a lot of county employees already. They just don't have access to better quality information that's being flown. We do work in the commercial space with insurance, roofing, solar, lawn care. One fun use case was food trucks. He wanted to see where construction was so he could set up his taco truck just right there. So there's a lot of different use cases that people have for this, but especially in our world that's going a little more virtual, being able to make county staff more effective where they are, rather than saying, hey, drive out to the northwest corner, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. You know, they can just do a lot of that from the office. Or when they do have to go out on site, they're better informed because they've looked at this, and they can look through the historical collections and say, I'm seeing the history of this. From a road perspective, really quickly, we've seen in working with, for example, the City of Indianapolis, their Public Works Department, that's where I live, Pothole Central, right? They start looking back over the historical data to see we're always filling potholes here. This is a chronic issue. We need to do a full rip and replace, cut that out, fill it in with reinforced concrete, whatever, but it helps them look at trends over time to better be planning ahead and fully replacing rather than always just band-aiding the problem with a patch of asphalt. So there are a lot of different use cases, and again, I want to impress upon the group that it's already being used.
Where are you guys based out of?
So globally, we're headquartered out of Sydney, Australia.
Oh, wow.
In the U.S., we have our main headquarters in Salt Lake City and our operations team out of Tysons Corner, Virginia.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Are you all, your data, is it web-based or what? How are you storing?
Yeah, we are based in the cloud. We work off of Amazon Web Services to store that data. We can provide offline data where that's requisite.
Okay.
And that's what this is actually going off of right now. This is going off of your internet connection. We just logged in and we're able to pull up that data.
This is actually the county computer. This is not our laptop.
Right.
Could you show us an example of the height measurements on these are rectified aerial?
Yeah.
With the size of measurement, could you show us an example of measure a building height or a bridge height or even a fence height?
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
Everything has a certain value.
Are you using Google Maps as your base, or did you all?
This is all proprietary to NearMap. So we actually, for some context, in the aerial imagery space, most people buy a camera system from somebody, throw it in a plane, and then they say it's their data. we have a team in Australia that custom builds our camera system, so it's proprietary from the ground up. So this is our content that we collect. If you went outside the county, we work with a company called here.com to provide data where we don't have it. We also use them for our geocoder, which basically says if I drop a point, what's the address? But the actual imagery itself and the measurability and the data behind that is ours.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so this particular structure, if we wait for it to load in, I can measure the height of that just by clicking and dragging it down. So it's measured right here as 15.57 feet. What's unique about our system versus the provider that the county was using before is that we actually give you a bunch of different image options from which to choose for a given point on the ground. So it allows folks like assessment, but also just a general team to get a better view. So and again, I'm zoomed in really close, so it can feel kind of blotched out, but that's because we're zoomed in pretty tight. But I can then measure the different aspects there. I can even measure the width of a particular segment right in that space right there. If there was a desire to get the slope or the area of a pitched roof, for example, there's a good one right there. I can actually go into the 3D mode. Can you actually hold this for me? Sorry.
While you're doing that, on your SSNs, is it government cleared as far as your licenses, your network stuff?
Yeah, so I mean, it's secured. I think it's something through Amazon. They provide like a 99.99% uptime. So it doesn't fail. It's also, if you want to think of it, we're a one-way street. We pipe data to you. We don't ingest any of the county's information.
That's all.
Yeah, so we don't see any of your GIS data or things like that, only that a user is logged in.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So if I back out, oh, thank you. And I tilt, so you can see that in the 3D perspective, it's measured several things for me. It's actually giving me the pitch of the roof. So this is only an 11-degree pitch, but based off of that, the actual area is 1,279 square feet. So what it's taken into account is the actual slope or pitch of the roof. Now this is a roof. If you want to think of it in a road's perspective, thank you, you could look at the slope of embankments. If we're putting in a new on or off ramp or something like that, we can look at the flooding perspectives and understand, okay, we're putting a sound barrier. How might that affect the drainage of homes or businesses we're going by?
So can you tell me if there was going to be a 12-foot rainfall, how much water would be around that property?
There's some ways to do that, yeah.
Okay. One of the things in our county, we have about 320,000 parcels. Some of those parcels are owned by public companies, public entities, the different buildings that may or may not be assessed for ad valorem purposes. Mm-hmm. And this data is going to be very helpful for us to be able to complete that task. So if there's a school, a public school that's going up for auction, we'd be able to measure it and be able to determine the number of square feet and find out what the sale price is and be able to apply a value, which is what we're supposed to do.
Right. And we had, dovetailing off of that a little bit, we had talked to the state's emergency management group for the state of Oklahoma, and they let us know that there are some properties that are, I believe, either state or county owned along the river or the floodplain that are not supposed to be occupied, nor are they supposed to be resold. And so having access to our data allows you to get a sense of occupancy as well, to determine if it's actually being occupied or not when it's not supposed to be. From a flooding perspective, this is only the visual component. There's a lot of analytical data sitting behind this layer that you can plug into other tools that allow you to say, what if we have 13 inches versus 12 or whatever? And it automatically models it out for you. It's just not showing on this system.
On your analytics, are you using Cobra or Tree, or what kind of analytics are you using for that stuff?
For our type of data, all proprietary. We built it ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's there's a team of people way smarter than I am, or ever will be, in Australia. That's not hard to do, by the way. In Australia, that have run all of these algorithms, and we train it to detect and analyze that data. A lot of the basic flooding analysis is actually done through a tool called ArcPro. It's an ESRI tool. We just provide the data, and then GIS professionals can easily run that analysis with their provided tools. But we're the core content that that's used for.
Are Tyler or CC in here? I would imagine that this would be beneficial to planning and engineering. Okay.
It would be. Absolutely. No, we do work with a lot of counties and cities and regional governments, a lot of transportation agencies, et cetera, that use us for engineering and planning, whether it's long range, short term, et cetera. And we could spend a whole other hour walking through those use cases, but absolutely from planning and engineering, it's used heavily.
Which we are a partner with Autodesk. So I'd imagine a lot of engineering companies or departments are using AutoCAD, so our imagery will integrate into those platforms as well.
Yeah.
What I would suggest, if the board permits it, that we can adjourn the meeting, and then we can leave all of the staff here and visit with Brett and Tyler and ask questions of them about the different services that they may think would be beneficial, if that would be appropriate. Are there any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. But just so we know, there won't be 5 elected officials in the room asking.
No, I'm saying we can adjourn, and then we can, if we do stick around, the staff could be here, or we can wait until there are just 5 people and decide to adjourn at that time. But I'd like to have some of the staff that may have questions answered.
Okay. Well, if we're okay with that, I'll move to adjourn.
That's second.
Got a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're adjourned. Thank
Thank you,
you all for
Larry.
attending and appreciate your help.
Thank you.